morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are looking at a situation in Zimbabwe where our politics is utter chaos, to say the least. This whole issue of ED 2030 has generated a lot of heat, a lot of smoke, but no light. I believe it is a decoy. The singing of ED 2030 started soon after the 2023 elections results were announced. There was nothing coincidental in that, because the 2023 elections were condemned, and this time not only by most of the other election observers, but by SADC and the AU election observers themselves. They made it clear that that process was flawed and illegal. It didn't come as a surprise. We've known all along that without implementing the democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections, Zimbabwean elections will always be rigged. So it came as absolutely no surprise at all. And I think this whole ED must stay in, the singing of it was all deliberate. Mnangagwa wanted to draw attention away from the fact that the elections had been rigged. And what clever way of doing it than throwing in something that he knows the people will run for it and forget the issue of illegitimacy. 2030 was irrelevant at that point. The point here was, if the 2023 elections were not free, fair, and credible, SADC condemned it, the AU condemned him. We have, per se, an illegitimate government, an illegitimate president. And that should have been the focus. How long are we going to keep on having this situation where elections are rigged and we continue to perpetuate having an illegitimate government? I have said myself on this platform again and again, Zimbabwe is a failed state. And the main reason why we are a failed state is the failure to hold free, fair, and credible elections. So the whole issue of 2030 was a decoy. Welcome to the program, Ben.
Good day to you and good day to all of yours. Thank you for joining us. I think, I said this, just when this whole 2030 thing came about, to say, I don't think there's anything to it other than just, moving our attention elsewhere and, not focusing on the reforms and the recommendations that we were given, moving us away from the SADC report itself, which stated that the 2023 elections were not free, fair, and credible. And unfortunately, it seems as if, actually, it doesn't seem, it is what it is. All opposition are running sixes and sevens, you know, after the whole 2030 movement. And in my mind, I'm just wondering, okay, you go and you stop the 2030 movement and you get elections 2028. What is going to change from what happened in 2023? Nothing.
Well, I think besides ZANU-PF drawing attention away from the issue of 2023 elections were rigged and Mnangagwa himself is illegitimate, throwing in this ED2030 has given the opposition something to do, something to sink their teeth into. And the opposition have been totally useless in Zimbabwe. Let me re-emphasize, when the MDC was formed in 1999, the number one task that the nation set out for the opposition was that they would implement the democratic reforms necessary to end the one-party state in Zimbabwe. And the party named themselves accordingly. They were the Movement for Democratic Change. And yet, 25 years later, it turns out they had not implemented any changes at all, no reforms at all. ZANU-PF has been able to rig elections, including the 2023, because no reforms have been implemented. That is the point. And worse still, the opposition have been participating in these flawed elections, knowing fully well that ZANU-PF was rigging, knowing fully well that by participating, they'll be giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. But one of the things that the opposition have cherished is the opportunity to bite into something, to draw attention away from the fact that they too have failed the nation. Here is a video clip of Douglas Mwonzora, an opposition leader of renown, who cherishes moments like that, something to bite into regardless whether it's irrelevant. Let's listen to him giving a recent press statement, statement on the issue of ED 2030.
And there is absolutely no loophole in the Constitution. The Constitution was elegantly and competently drafted. And I'm happy to say that the lawyers who did it took a lot of care on that. You will notice that there is Section 95. But the Constitution doesn't end with Section 95. There is Section 328, which says that if there is any need to amend a term limit clause, that amendment must be the same as amending the Bill of Rights. Now, we don't use the word referendum there, but when it comes to amendment of the Bill of Rights, you amend using the referendum. So what we did was to say that in amending the term limit clause, it shall be the same in the same manner as amending the Bill of Rights, i.e. via the referendum. I have seen the opinion by Jonathan Moyo and a gentleman called Tawanda Nyambirani. What these gentlemen are just doing is to try to ingratiate themselves with ZANU-PF. They are trying to please President Mnangagwa. There is no loophole. Now, the The term limit clause in section 328 does not talk of a term. It talks of the length of time that a person holds office. A length of time that a person holds office. We did that very advisedly. Now, if a person is supposed to be in office for 5 years, and suddenly they make it 7, they lengthened the period in which he is holding office. That is the simple interpretation of that constitution. And when we are interpreting a constitution, ladies and gentlemen, sorry to bore you with a bit of law here, we use the literal rule. We look at the grammatic meaning, ordinary grammatic meaning of the words. So the constitution says an extension of term, an extension of term is the time within.
Well, we don't have to go into the technicalities and legalities of that constitution, but I think it is relevant here to add that what Mr. Mwonzora is trying to tell us here is rubbish. He's once again trying to sell to the people of Zimbabwe that Zimbabwe's 2013 constitution is perfection. It was drafted. There are no loopholes, etc., etc. This is the same language that he and his colleagues used when they presented that constitution to the nation in the referendum, leading up to the referendum in 2013. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. If the constitution was such a great document, beautifully crafted, then why is it that it has failed to deliver the basic freedoms and human rights, including the right to free, fair, and credible election, and even the right to life itself? It has failed. There's no denying it that it has failed. And yet somebody here is wittering about how foolproof it is. That is just nonsense. Douglas Mwonzora was the MDC co-chair of the committee that drafted that constitution. The ZANU-PF counterpart was Paul Mangwana. And soon after the March 2013 referendum, Paul Mangwana was on record boasting that Mugabe dictated that constitution. Everything then makes sense. This is why the constitution has failed the nation. This is a dictator's decree. You can't expect it to deliver democratic rights and freedoms. And that is exactly what has happened here. And so what Mwonzora is wittering about is just regurgitating some of the boastful statements that he and his MDC leaders gave during the writing of the constitution itself, and to persuade the people of Zimbabwe to support it. They even called it an MDC child. How could it be an MDC child if Mugabe dictated it?
You know, it is guys like Mwonzora here that are actually benefiting from this whole circus. I mean, you know, just a couple of months back, the MDC was nowhere to be found. They were irrelevant, basically. And you are hearing that they are in financial wars and everything. And then you are very right to say, now they've got a bone to chew at. They are trying to be relevant again. Let's show up. Let's tell the people what they want to hear. We are on their side, and so forth. My question is, according to the observer mission, not just SADC, but all of them, they clearly stated that the Constitution was violated in 2023. And they kept quiet. And up to today, they have not made that wrong right. They have not shown any effort or any stride in making that right. Here they are saying they want to protect the Constitution against the 2030 or term extension or lengthening, as he puts it. How can you protect one and leave the other? And make matters worse, the same elections are going to be coming up, because once the 2030 movement is done, 2028 is back in the picture. And these same guys that are sitting right there, they will want to participate in an illegal process, because whatever process or whatever election we are going to hold in 2028 can never be free, fair, and credible, because there has not been anything done to address the problem of 2023. So rest assured, it's a win-win battle for ZANU-PF. Let's say they do get away with it and go through to 2030. And when 2030 comes, when they want to do elections, there will be no reforms implemented. 2028, if it does come, ZANU-PF will rig those elections again. And whoever will be contesting will be the winner. So in all this, it really doesn't make sense. Maybe, Mwonzora and company and many other opposition, it's not just him, many other are dwelling on the 2030, ED2030, and forgetting that the Zimbabweans elections are never free, fair, and credible. Report after report has been showing that there is a clear violation of the Constitution. And none of them are talking about it. None of them are doing press conferences about it. None of them are on social media talking about it. What is going to happen is, because they have found each other in one solid thing, 2030, they are planning to unite. And once they unite, they are taking us straight into another meaningless election. That is it. They will tell us now that we have united, we found each other, we were lost brothers and sisters, we have one common cause, and forgive us and forget. Let us go and take on ZANU-PF. This time we have got better plans and we are unified and so forth. Another lie. And as it comes 2028, we are going to participate in millions believing this nonsense. And lo and behold, just like the previous years, ZANU-PF will rig those elections, get away with it, and perpetuate our own suffering. This is all that is to it.
Well, I would like to reiterate that point, and I think it is an important point. The opposition of the likes of Douglas Mwonzora, Nelson Chamisa, Tendai Biti, they will never talk about implementing reforms for the simple reason they've not done so all along. They know that the minute they start bringing up that issue, it will just take the whole nation back to the GNU. That was their golden opportunity to implement reforms. They will have to explain, why did you fail to implement even one reform when you had the golden opportunity to do so? And the truth of the matter is, Mugabe bribed them. When they joined the government of national unity, Mugabe gave the E-Class Mercedes-Benz to all the deputy ministers, all the ministers, the two deputy prime ministers, to Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai himself. Then came the generous salaries all round, from the members of parliament, senators, ministers, everything up to the prime minister. And for Saleh himself, the US $4 million mansion in Highlands, etc., etc. When they had their snouts in the feeding trough, it would have been rude for them to submit any formal democratic reform proposals. The truth of the matter is, in 5 years of the GNU, MDC leaders failed to implement even one token reform. This is why they don't want to talk about reforms. The only person who has ever said anything on reforms is Blue Whale Mayor David Coulthard in his book. He admits that no meaningful reforms were implemented. And more so, admits that the MDC leaders participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, and knowing fully well that by participating, they will only be giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. But they participated regardless because of greed. As is explained in the statement that is going across on your screen there. That is the truth. That is why the MDC leaders refused to participate in flawed elections. Sorry, MDC leaders continue to participate in flawed elections. That is the problem we have had with the opposition. They have been participating. I mean, you look at the case of 2023. Chamisa himself is the one who lied to the people about, we are going to have plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, and Triple C are going to win big, and hashtag God is in it. Participating in flawed elections. He didn't want to implement any reforms. He didn't talk about we are going to implement any meaningful reforms because he knew they were not going to implement any meaningful reforms. So the issue of reforms, as much as people would want to think that the opposition are passionate about it, the truth of the matter is the opposition leaders, as we know them, the lot that we know, are not interested in implementing any reforms because they know they had the opportunity to do so and they failed to do so. I'll just quickly play the clip where Chamisa is making his outrageous statements about winning the elections.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifoiri. Plan yaMwari haifoiri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
Thank you very much. Temba, welcome to the program. We are tonight talking about why ED 2030 has become such a bonanza for the opposition, why they are so excited to talk about it. I don't know whether you've heard the program, the video of Douglas Mwonzora talking about the Constitution is airtight and there's no loopholes in it, the usual overblown, over the top praise of the Constitution. Welcome to the program.
Good day.
Good day to you. What
My
do you have to
network
say?
my network is betraying me today.
We are sorry to hear that.
But can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
It's like, where can I start? Let me start by the opposition. The opposition. Okay, let's say it's existent because in my mind it's not existent. Let's say it hypothetically, it exists. What's the agenda? They know the Constitution is flawed. Everybody knows that. Every literate person knows that. And then you can't go on to say the Constitution is airtight. It's just insulting people's intelligence. So anyway, let them, as they usually do, we are insulted on a day-to-day basis. But do not, at least, why is the opposition not truthful to themselves? If I may ask that question, why are they not truthful to themselves? To themselves. For starters, the parliament building was built by Chinese. There was no consultation. It's like, it's just a one-party state still. That's what I say. But anyway, let me not be the devil's advocate. Let me try and look at maybe the positives of what the opposition is saying. And they're saying the Constitution should be upheld. If they uphold the Constitution, that agenda is impossible. If they follow the Constitution to the dot, it's impossible. It's not feasible, if I can say. I don't know if I'm off topic. I just joined in now, so I would like to hear what people are saying. Anyway, and then take it from there.
Okay, I'll just play the beginning of that interview by Douglas Mwonzora for those who maybe didn't hear the beginning.
Absolutely no in the Constitution. The Constitution was elegantly, competently drafted. And I'm happy to say that the lawyers who did it took a lot of care on that. You will notice that there is Section 95, but the Constitution doesn't end with Section 95. There is Section 328, which says that if there is any need to amend a term limit clause, that amendment must be the same as amending the Bill of Rights. Now, we don't use the word referendum there, but when it comes to amendment of the Bill of Rights, you amend using the referendum. So what we did was to say that in amending the term limit clause, it shall be the same in the same manner as amending the Bill of Rights.
I'll stop it there. Ben.
You know, the easiest thing that one can ever do is to convince a desperate person. That's the easiest thing. And where is that fertile ground? You know, you can see in ZANU-PF, they are going to the apostles and so forth. Then you go to the MDC, they're doing the same thing. You cannot say anything. In that one statement, they have shut us all up because of our fear for God. Zimbabwe is a God-fearing country. So they have taken that away from us. Makandiwa has come out and said, God has anointed President Mnangagwa, and no one was going to win the election other than him, right? That has shut down the door for us again. In our desperation, whatever Mwonzora is saying may be pleasing to the ear, but in reality, it is nonsense. I mean, we are in this problem because of the constitution that gave not executive powers to the president, but superpowers. They made him a god. One that can say the police, the army should be independent, but appointed by the president. Now, give me the sense in that. One that says, you know, ZEC, ZANU-PF are different, but their children can be in both organizations. That is what Mwonzora is selling to us. It's a super document that was written by lawyers, and he forgot to say that I was part of. So, you know, our desperation is what they are preying on. And unfortunately, it's just not ZANU-PF that we need to watch out for. It has become also the opposition. This old guard from both the ZANU and this so-called opposition, they need to be booted out completely because neither one of them has done great in their job. They've all failed.
Yeah, it is sad. I think the other thing that needs to be mentioned here for those Zimbabweans out there who are not aware that Douglas Mwonzora was the co-chair of the committee, the parliamentary committee during the GNU that drafted the constitution. He was so proud of that document. He carried it around and showed it off in the same manner as Leonardo da Vinci showed his Mona Lisa. That is how proud he was of that document. And it is sad to notice that he's still praising it to the high heavens. The truth of the matter is that that constitution is weak. Like I said at the beginning, it has failed. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. It has failed to deliver the freedoms and basic human rights that were expected of it. Because it is weak. MDC guys were the ones who were claiming that that new constitution is an MDC child. and they persuaded the people of Zimbabwe to support it during the referendum. So only after the referendum that Paul Mangwana, who was the co-chair of the parliamentary committee, was on record boasting that it was Mugabe who had dictated that constitution. So if we are going to pretend that somehow we are defending that constitution, that it cannot be changed, I think that is, we are losing sight of what is at stake here. The extension or allowing Mnangagwa to stay on another 2 years is not the most important issue here. What matters most here is stopping ZANU-PF rigging elections. Because as long as ZANU-PF can rig 2028 election, we will have another ZANU-PF dictator. And I'm not really interested in whether it's Mnangagwa or Chiwenga or Tagwirei. That is more meaningless as the choice to a mouse, whether it's bitten by a cobra or a black mamba, because either one is going to die. We have had dictators for the last 45 years. The single most important task before us is to stop ZANU-PF rigging 2028. And I would like to see Mwonzora and his fellow opposition leaders focus on that, because they failed to do it these last 25 years. Instead of wasting people's time about, oh, no, we will stop Mnangagwa extending his term by 2 years. Even if you stop him and we end up with another ZANU-PF dictator, what have we achieved? Nothing. We are still stuck with the dictator. Temba, do you want to come in now?
Yes, I'd love to come in.
Go ahead.
Guys, the bigger picture is Mwonzora is tripping on his own shoes. He's wearing so much, the shoes are so big, he's even falling and he wakes up and he doesn't know what's happening. He's contradicting himself. He's saying the constitution is airtight. The constitution needs a bill of rights. I did not hear the further. Just the snippet I heard. He's shooting himself in the foot. He's shooting ZANU-PF in the foot, which he represents. It's obvious. He represents ZANU-PF. He's shooting himself in the foot. He's saying the constitution is airtight. It needs a bill of rights. The bill of rights to be exchanged needs a referendum, and the referendum won't support them as much as they'll rig it, but it's not making sense to himself. I'm sitting here just listening 2 minutes of what he's saying. He's saying it's airtight. It needs a referendum. Like I say, he's tripping on his say. So it's so complex. It's like Zach and Mwonzora, they're the same. They've got the same paymaster. They've got the same paymaster, so they have to sing a certain tune. But if I were Mwonzora, I'll desist from media and just go to a holiday, maybe just ask my boss to pay for a holiday in Dubai for 5 years or something, because he's representing nothing. And life is about facts. And as much as you guys are somber and saying, it's dictatorship, but the maths has to count at the end of the day. They did not add the maths the previous elections. They won't add the maths on the referendum. Mathematics, and there is now artificial intelligence, guys. It's as much as you
Sorry, we may have lost Temba there for a minute. Ben, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sure. You know, no matter how much I try and play it in my head about what Mwonzora is saying and how he's trying to justify this, it really doesn't work. But now let's talk about Zimbabweans, the ordinary people here. What we are being sold is this picture. Let us go out there and fight for our constitution and stand by our constitution, which is a very noble thing, and stop this whole 2030 amendment, issue, which is a very, very noble thing. But why choose this particular, event and forget about the violation that happened not only the 2023 elections, but all previous ZANU elections? In other words, we are saying we don't want ED to stay in power, but we are fine with anybody else from ZANU PF taking over. Because that is exactly what will happen. We will stop ED 2030. 2028 elections automatically come into play. And need I remind people that the elections and previous elections were flawed, and we were given recommendations, reforms that need to be put in place. And as things stand, we still have the same ZEC with ZANU PF children. We still have the same police that is appointed by the president. We still have the same judiciary that is appointed by the president. The list goes on and on and on. So basically what I'm saying is ZANU PF is going to rig the 2028 election, and we are going to get a ZANU PF president, come what may. So I agree with the example that you gave earlier to say, we, the people of Zimbabwe, have become like a mouse. And our two options is either get bitten by a black mamba or by a cobra. The choice is yours. It doesn't make any sense at all, because all leads to death. All roads are leading to death. So whether we want to defend the Constitution against 2030 and forget about, rigged elections, we are still going to be bit. It's not as if they don't know and they don't realize this, the opposition. They know this. But for years, people have failed to realize that the opposition are in it now for the money. It is no longer anything to do about fixing you and I's problem. It is about the money. Have you ever heard the opposition, one opposition say, no, you can't give us, these $70,000 cards when there's no medicines in the hospitals, or our children learning under trees? Have you ever heard one? Have you ever heard them refuse loans? No, they haven't. In fact, they are now demanding a second car. Not one $70,000 car. They said they want two, because that one is for personal use. The other one is to do the donkey work. Then you ask yourself, are these servants of the people? At some point, we have to stop being naive. We have to stop being threatened because somebody mentions God, and then we are all, knees trembling. A couple of days I ran into one Magaya video where he was holding lipstick, and he says, you know, to his congregants, this lipstick, you know, will help those people with low blood. And people clap hands. In my mind, you know, you just wonder, why is Zimbabwe a failed state? The answer is there. You know, a couple of days back again, I saw you know, the first lady went to visit somewhere in the rural areas. Here comes this woman, you know, that had been given a piece of chicken and chips from, you know, I don't know, chicken slice, chicken in, one of the two. And she was saying, I've never eaten this. Surely the first lady is a blessing sent from God. And this was being broadcast on the 8 o'clock news bulletin. And you still ask yourself the question, why do you think Zimbabwe is a failed state? You know, our people, us, we have become so gullible. We are fertile soil to be manipulated. Whoever comes with a narrative, we are running. Geza comes today. Hey, let's go and fight this guy, Ganandas, because they're corrupt. And put Chiwenga. Everybody's running. They're forgetting who Chiwenga is. Nyokama Bunu comes. Hey, Vanachamanya is tremendous, and all these funny words he uses. People are already running with him. You know. Professor Ibo Mandaza comes, you know, he says something, we're already running with government of national unity in the middle of nowhere. We got to stop and think. Let's take a minute to think. What are we wanting to achieve? Where are we coming from? What do we want? What is the end goal for this? And then you look at it to say, hold on a minute. We are fighting 2030. Even if we win, there's 2028 in the middle. How do we then overcome that? Because that is where, even if we win 2030, whoever is coming from ZANU-PF is going to go beyond. How are we going to get ourselves out of the real mess? The primary, you know, problem. Oliver Tukudze had a song that says, "Chijaita musoro uteme." What caused the headache? There is a problem behind it. And the problem is Zimbabwe has failed to ever, from the very beginning, we've never had free, fair, and credible elections. Even 1980, ZANU-PF said, if we don't win, we are never going to make this country governable. That was already a threat. And we know what happened after that, the killings. So there was never a moment in time when we had free, fair, and credible elections. And this is what has been the problem. Look around us. Countries that are able to hold free, fair, and credible elections. South Africa, Botswana, they're doing very well. Countries that cannot hold free, fair, and credible elections. Just recently, Tanzania, 700 feared dead. Mozambique, there was a clash there. Zimbabwe itself. We have to stop being so naive and gullible. Stop, let's think for ourselves. That is what makes us human. It's sad, Wilbert. I really don't know what it will take. You know, I wish I had a magic wand. I would just wave it around and you know, maybe put brains in some empty vessels and you know, we would go somewhere. But this is life, right? We have to take it as it is. Democracy, you know, can be so slow, like our President Obama says. Democracy can be a slow and painful process, but it works. But it needs a people that have been informed. And unfortunately, we are not there yet.
Thanks very much, Ben.
Can I-
Temba, I noticed you dropped out. I hope you're okay now. Go ahead.
I just want to answer Ben's lamentations. He's lamenting, he's lamenting. Ben, there is like,
It's painful.
but why don't people just stop voting? Don't go to the polling stations, and your vote will be rigged, and anyone who's got a chance to vote, maybe in his lifetime, if my math does me right, he votes about 6 times or 7 times. So just stop voting.
No,
Don't
remember,
vote.
voting has to mean something. It's not all about just going to stand in a queue and getting
Boycott the vote. Boycott the
it has
vote.
to mean in something, right? At the end of the day, we are voting, but ZANU-PF is rigging. Look at what happened.
Boycott the votes. Don't go to the polls at all.
But you just cannot sit and not go. You need to
Yes.
fight and not go.
No, man. Like I said, in your lifetime, you vote probably 6 to 7 times, if God keeps you. So you voted about 3 times, and it's still the same repetition. Just stop voting.
I wouldn't mind voting once as long as it's free, fair, and credible, and my vote counts. Not this one here.
It's not
Whoever
free,
voted in the
fair,
voting
and
time
credible.
never meant
It's not
anything.
free. It's not free, fair, and credible. You know it. As much as you can romanticize it and say it will be free, fair, it's not. It's not. It's not. And that's the fact. That's the blunt fact of life.
Yeah, but no, Temba,
So,
you've got also to accept that the 2 million, for instance, who voted for Chamisa in 2023, they genuinely believed that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. Hashtag God is in it. He isn't even invoked the name of God. And these people believe it.
that's how gullible we are. That's how gullible Zimbabweans are. And it's a sad piece of events that we believe. We are so easy to believe, but we can't solve problems. We're so easy to believe that we've got somebody who, it's gullibility, if I can say. We're so gullible. So let us be gullible in the opposite sense. Let us believe that voting won't help and everyone just stays at home and they count their whatever votes. The math won't add. People should, but it needs somebody to initiate it in the opposition. But the opposition is, they're so greedy. Like, how can you sell your nation for a piece of bread? I don't know how much they are given, but to me, it's a piece of bread. It can get rotten the next day. You can forget to eat it today, and you come back for it, it's rotten. You're throwing it away. So, how gullible, how stupid are they? That's my question. I think let's at least measure the level of stupidity, and then we know what to do. Let's at least have a barometer of the stupidity of our opposition. Or are they that hungry? Are they that hungry? That's my if they are that hungry, we can mobilize funds and feed them, at least buy bread and margarine or something. But if it's hunger,
I think on that point, Temba, you've got to differentiate between the opposition leaders and their supporters. the opposition leaders, what they are getting is significant. Let's be honest about that.
Is
Many
what?
of these opposition leaders, when they get into politics, they become
Yes.
incredibly rich relative
No,
to
they're not. Not.
us.
I beg to differ. They don't become rich. I'm telling you. It's just paltry. They just given something. It's those are not riches. They don't have. I beg to differ. Maybe they give them a car, a Ford Ranger or something, and that car is depreciating. It's not tangible, and the person who becomes really rich is maybe out of 10, it's 2. I'm telling you, 2. 2. So that's how stupid they are. They follow to make 2 people rich. Aye.
No, I think if you compare the opposition politician, not only opposition, even ZANU PF politician, to the ordinary Zimbabwean, then their life is definitely a lot better than the average Zimbabwean out there. When you get 40,000 US dollars or a car worth 60,000 US dollars, how many ordinary Zimbabweans out there ever dream of getting that kind of money in their lifetime? Very few. That is the reality. I think one of the problems that we have had with our politics is that you find yourself in a situation where you come from a house like that, and if you make it really big, like become the leader, you go to a mansion like that. You cannot imagine the difference. The difference is so vast, it's unbelievable. And this is why when earlier on we talked about the MDC leaders, when they were sworn in during the GNU, they were given the E-Class Mercedes-Benz. All the ministers got that. And then as even from member of parliament, senators, ministers, deputy ministers, right up, you were given a very generous salary and allowance. Morgan Changirai got himself a house worth US 4 million. I mean, let's be honest. That kind of wealth suddenly coming to you gets to your head. And therefore, then for those guys to think about, oh, we were elected to implement democratic reforms, they forgot it. Completely forgot it. But I agree with you that a principled person like yourself will be saying that wealth is meaningless to me, because I could do a lot more things that are productive for the good of the country. But to these people, it's not. And that is one of the problems we have. And it's not only in opposition, but in the ruling party itself.
So it boils down to the common person. It still comes back to the common person. Leave alone the politicians who are in power. You, as the person who's hungry in the street, what's your ethos? Why are you voting? Why are you voting a certain party? Never mind the rigging, never mind. Why are you walking to queue and people stand, 10 people are in front of you and you're doing it for the 3rd time? Like I'm telling you, my point still stands. We've got about 6 votes in a lifetime. I'm not more or less 6 to 7. 6 to 7. So yes, the politicians will tell you a story. That's why I'm saying we are gullible. So I don't know Mtsukudzi's song kuti mopo kwanzi chi? chakonzera kuti musoro uteme, ngatitsvage chinhu chakonzera kuti musoro uteme. Musoro uteme haisi tombori ma-politicians. There is a system in Zimbabwe that we believe in miracles so much, all of us, to the extent that we believe ZANU-PF will change. So we are so gullible as a state. Before the politics, we are so gullible. We're so scared that people once they impersonate CIO, you just get scared. We are so scared of ourselves, not even the next person. Our identity is in disarray. Personality is in disarray. We can't even lead, even to the extent of leading our own families. It's a sad piece of events. We are scattered all over. So let's look for the headache. This headache is not politics. I'm telling you now. It's deeper than that. We may say, hey, ZANU-PF, MTC, but ourselves, we are the same one. We are the same ZANU-PFs and MTCs in our households. So it's deep rooted, but a quick fix, if I may say, a quick fix is to vote right. Let's all register to vote. It's either we vote or we boycott voting. It's neither the two. It's either we vote in overwhelming numbers or we don't vote at all. Those are the two options I think are practical.
Vote for what, Temba? You can't say it's either we vote or we boycott the election. You vote for what?
Spoil the ballot.
No. When you say you vote, you will be voting for what? To spoil the ballot.
Yeah, you spoil the ballot.
What will that accomplish?
Yeah.
They will see how they do their maths. Spoil the ballot.
This is the problem with Zimbabweans. We want to see. Look at it this way. When we went into the 2023 election, everybody knew ZANU-PF was going to rig those elections. Whether you were a staunch MDC supporter, Triple C supporter, or whatever, we knew ZANU-PF was going to rig the election.
But listen, can I say something?
We got history to prove that. That is what they do. Now, let me explain to you, from what Mugabe perfected, how politics in Zimbabwe works. And ZANU-PF perfected that. Right after independence, how do we get people to be comfortable? He immediately made all the ministers and everybody around him comfortable by buying them, expensive cars, borrowed brook and everything. And everything was okay. Then he had a problem with ZAPU. How do we get ZAPU to be within us? And he figured it out again. Well, it took him long because he ended up killing thousands of people. But then he brought them closer in. Come, let us all unite again. We are friends. After all, we were fighting for the same cause. And everybody joined in and he made them comfortable. Now you have MDC that came up and they were a thorn in ZANU-PF's flesh. How do we make them comfortable, right? Let's give them, these seats. As long as they don't get the majority that will hinder whatever we need to do, it's okay. And MDC became comfortable with that. They found revenue. You're saying it's not money. An ordinary Zimbabwean is surviving on $1 a day. Now here comes $70,000 car. Here comes just going into parliament and sitting and talking absolutely rubbish. You get paid for it. Going there from wherever you're coming from, going to parliament, you're getting paid for it. You're moving in their car, but whenever you go through the bush or using or even if you are flying by aeroplane, you get bush allowance. Why
So
did you?
Ben, will you take the 70,000?
They have become comfortable that if you are going to tell them, let us not participate, they will tell you, and miss out these goodies. What nonsense are you talking about? This is why you found out that when SADC condemned those elections, as SADC is saying, no, these elections are not free, fair, and credible. ZANU-PF, you must be accountable for that. What are they doing? They're busy getting sworn in. I promise to our, they're already legitimizing the process because there is money involved. SADC tried to help Zimbabwe, but it was the opposition every time that they stopped. So you got to realize, and then when it comes to the people, I was giving you an example that the first lady was in some rural place there, and she gave out chicken and chips to the rural folk. And their minds were, she's an extraordinary woman to bring such delicacy to our land. That is already vote bought. To her, that is above and beyond. So to the people, ZANU-PF will want to keep you impoverished, such that small things matter and they don't have to do the big things. That is how it works. If there's no ambulance, but if you get to the hospital and see the doctor, that's good enough. I can always go and buy my medicine. That is what they have created in the people. And then worse off, they've brought God. And once you mention the word of God, you say God said, our people, it's finished. Look at Makandiwa, he can make somebody buy a brick for $10, boss, and tell you are going to build a mansion. Then you go to his house, he's got a bigger mansion than yours. You're still holding on to a brick. This is our people. That is how politics in Zimbabwe works. So whoever, what they call it, who's on fire is the one that gets recognition. So there's this 2030 movement that ZANU-PF has created. And now everybody's focus and attention is there, forgetting the real story, unfortunately. And the real story is ZANU-PF are planning to rig the next election. Whether you stop the 2030, they will still rig the 2028 and beyond. That is what is happening here.
Thanks very much, Ben. Themba, do you want to give your closing remarks there?
No, I concur with Ben. Like, hey. But still, there's a sour taste. There's still a sour taste in our solution. We're not coming with solutions. Like I said, we're crying. What's our solution? You're saying you've already concluded. Ben has already concluded 2028. In his mind, he's got the figures already. We're not there yet. And our opposition is not helping it as much as I think it's non-existent. There's no opposition existent. There's zero opposition because they've been bought. Like I'm saying, it's not 70,000. Anyone will take it. Anyone in his right mind will take it. That's how selfish as Zimbabweans you are. So that 70,000 portrays us. It does not portray the politician. It portrays us as a people. And that's the sad piece of advance that, okay, if I ask Themba, would you take the 70,000? I'll say, yes, I'll take the 70,000. Ben, will you take it? We lack that hunger to serve, selflessly, and it's through poverty, obviously, because I'm saying it from a black person's point of view that we are in a disadvantage. So anything that is shining in the corner will get it. So fundamentally, I'm saying that's our problem. It's not the politicians, it's our problem. We'll blame the politicians until the roosters come back to roost. But fundamentally, we are the problem. We are so gullible, for starters. We believe in glitters. We believe in quick money. And that thing of madiri diri it's such a cancer to Zimbabwe, because every Zimbabwean, I'm in South Africa, Zimbabweans, every Zimbabwean you meet thinks they can make money. They are so super in making money. So that's the cancer that is chowing into us while the politicians are making their millions. So I think let's self-reflect. Let's self-reflect as much as we want that money, but is it worth sleepless nights? So I'll say, people, let's evaluate ourselves more than before we judge our politicians, because our politicians portray us. What's happening in ZANU-PF, that's definitely how Zimbabwe operates. I won't mince my words on that one. That's Zimbabwe for you, as much as it is said. So I think let's examine ourselves and look at ourselves in the mirror as you brush your teeth. Am I doing justice to the nation, or I'm doing disjustice? You get the answer immediately, and then maybe when I self-reflect on myself, then I can start condemning the opposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Temba. Thank you very much, Ben. Before I conclude, tomorrow we'll have the same open discussion. It's on the same StreamYard link that is at the bottom of your screen there. My view on this 2030, ED 2030 agenda is that Mnangagwa threw that in soon after the 2023 elections to draw attention away from the fact that he had rigged the 2023 elections. And he has kept that fire burning again to draw attention away from the fact that he is illegitimate, but also to draw attention away from people focusing on the issue of implementing the democratic reforms necessary to make sure that 2028 will finally be free, fair, and credible. The opposition have welcomed ED 2030 for their own selfish reasons. They have failed to implement the reforms, especially during the GNU of 2008 to 2013. And so they don't want to talk about reforms anymore. So far, post the GNU, they've lied to the people of Zimbabwe, telling them we don't need reforms because we have devised ways of winning rigged elections. 2023, Chamisa is on record saying, I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. Triple C is going to win big. But I think 2028, they are going to participate. This time, they will be telling their followers that it is stopping ED 2030. By participating, they are stopping ED 2030. failed opposition leaders like Douglas Mwonzora, they've been given a lifeline. They're dinosaurs that have emerged. They've been given a renewed life. Now they've got something to campaign about. They are stopping ED 2030. And many people are focusing on that and forgetting that this is the same individuals who sold out on implementing the democratic reforms which would have ended the ZANU-PF dictatorship by now. I've got on the screen there the great scientist Albert Einstein. He said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We have been participating in flawed elections, expecting the opposition to win. In our case, for 45 years and counting. I don't think the great scientist, when he said doing the same thing over and over again, he ever thought about 45 years. That is a long time. If somebody does it for 45 years, it's more than insane. The challenge before the people of Zimbabwe today is making sure that in 2028, we do not participate in another flawed election expecting the opposition to win. That is more than insanity. Think about it. Thank you very much again to Ben and Themba for joining us this afternoon. And we welcome all the listeners out there who will be able to join us tomorrow, same time, 6 o'clock UK time or 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. And the link, again, I say once again, is the same link that we've used today, but it's also shown at the bottom of your screen. So if you were to type it, and you'll be in. I hope we'll see you tomorrow. And we'll be doing this every Saturday and Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, depending where you are. Again, thank you. Thanks to the two guests, Ben and Themba there. And to everybody, thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.